Hello, I'm Shelby and I love Shakespeare, and I'm gonna do a really kind of low-tech quick tutorial on one of my favorite characters in all of Shakespeare's canon, because it's been too long to not have done a tutorial, and I'm excited to get just kind of back into it. I'm wearing my SAG-AFTRA strong shirt. Yay, actors, and off we go. This is actually for one of my students who's preparing this piece, so shout out to Maddie, and thought that I would do it just kind of in general for everyone in case you're interested in King Lear. So I'm going to talk about the play itself and what leads up to the monologue, and then I'm going to do line by line of here's what it actually means, and then I will do a performance reading it, but still at the end to hopefully have it all kind of gel together and make sense. I actually performed Goneril in King Lear many years ago, and it was a ball. She gets such a bad rap. She's considered one of the villains of Shakespeare, kind of like Lady Macbeth, and it's so silly. Every time I play a villain, I dive into the reason why they're acting the way they are, and it makes sense. I get it. And that's our job as actors. If we do a part, especially if it's one that's venerated and stamped as evil, that we find something good in that. But for this one, it wasn't that hard. Like, I get it. So let's dive into her speech from Act 1, Scene 4. That begins, "This admiration, sir, is much of the savor of other your new pranks." Quite a mouthful, but I promise you it's a badass speech. Okay, so up to this point in King Lear, this is how the play begins. King Lear is a dude who is about to retire king, and usually it would go, all the kingdom would go to the oldest of the family, the oldest born, and that would be Goneril. Goneril is the oldest of his 3 daughters. So at the very beginning of the play, he's holding court. He's saying, "Hey, everybody, about to retire. I'm gonna, and I've decided I'm going to divide my kingdom into 3." And Goneril's like, "Excuse me?" Because at least in our production, we chose that Goneril and King Lear did not have a great relationship, and by the time she was born, he wasn't very good at being a dad. His 3rd daughter, Cordelia, he loves. She's the baby. It's probably from a different mother than Goneril's mother, and he just dotes on her, loves her. But that's about to be thwarted very fast in this first scene. But beginning of the play, oldest daughter gets a hit of like, "Excuse me, that was not the arrangement." He says, "I'm going to divide it into 3, and then everybody can tell that the 3rd, meaning what the baby will get, is the biggest, best chunk." So not only does he drop this news, but then he also says, "By the way, before I officially give each of you your 3rd of the kingdom, I want you to tell me how much you love me." And he sits back, he just waits. So Goneril has to go up first, fuming that she's not getting her correct inheritance, and says through her teeth, "Love you, Dad," and just enough that it passes, and he's like, "Good girl." And so she's like, I walked back to my husband, who I also didn't like in the play, and just kind of was like, I can't believe I have to do all of this stuff, Then the 2nd daughter, named Regan, it's spelled Reagan, but usually in Shakespeare productions, it's pronounced Regan for some reason. Maybe Regal, right? Whereas Goneril sounds like a sexually transmitted disease. But that's how you say her name, Goneril, like Gone Girl, kind of. So Regan comes up and is much better at playing the part. "Oh, Daddy, I love you, and I'm just very grateful for anything you would give me." And he says, "Good girl," and gives her her 3rd. Then Cordelia comes up, and Cordelia says, "I'm not doing this." And her dad's like, haha, in front of all of his friends, right? "Oh, what do you mean, jokester?" Because this is the one he really likes and has a great relationship with. She's like, "No, we have a great relationship. You know I love you. I'm not going to be a part of this game where you want me to, sport it around and prove something to your friends. He's so upset, banishes her, says, fine, nothing will come of nothing, go. And it's a very heartbreaking scene, but the sisters are excited because, the youngest Cinderella type of their sisters has just always been a thorn in their side because dad liked her way more than he liked them. So then he says, well, I'm going to begin my retirement tour and I'm going to bring 100 of my drunk friends, all these knights and stuff like that. I'm going to bring 100 of my friends and I'm going to visit each of your houses. Goneril, you're first. She's like, what? So not only do they have to rule the kingdom, even though he still has the title of king, so they have to do a job and get no credit for it, and they got less than they expected with power and money. But he says, I'm going to come by your house. He invites himself over. And so he comes to Goneril's house first with 100 of his drunk friends. And when I tell you, imagine like Downton Abbey being put upon by 100 just like debaucherous young, all ages men that could not give two hoots about making sure that your house looks nice, that they're good guests. They don't care. So Goneril is shoving down all of this frustration, this anger of, I cannot believe he's doing this to me. Let me count the ways of how he's wronging me. And then, so she, finally getting to this speech, she goes into a room, which I imagine she walks in and the paintings on the walls have been ripped. There's food getting thrown in front of her face. Like just the most disrespectful, the worst house guests you've ever imagined, right? And so, including the king, right in the center of it all, and then his fool, which is like his jester, and in King Lear in particular, the fool is kind of the only person that tells the emperor he doesn't have clothes on. It's very much a precious part that is the only one who speaks reason to Lear, but he does it in a fool's way, in riddles and things like that. So she does talk about the fool a little bit. So she comes in and says the first part of the speech, which I will show you right now. Let's go into this position. It's called A Little Loom Bubble. I feel like Glinda the Good Witch. Hello. La 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 la. I thought this would be easier. So then this speech starts. And she says, not only, sir, because he's kind of like, what's the deal? Why are you upset, daughter? Not only, sir, this your all-licensed fool, meaning he has the license to do with whatever he pleases, but other of your insolent retinue, which is such a fun word that she uses to call this crazy batch of guys, instead of just saying rabble, right? Your insolent retinue. And to me, that just says all of these consonants, she is just writhing, but trying to keep it really together. But other of your insolent retinue do hourly carp and quarrel, breaking forth in rank, breaking their rank, right? Like doing something above their station, and not to be endured riots. There's rioting in her house. Sir, I had thought by making this well known unto you to have found a safe redress, meaning I thought by letting you know that all of this craziness was happening, you would be a safe place for me to then figure out together what we're going to do about this, how to fix it. But now I grow fearful. Now I'm afraid that by what you yourself too late have spoken done, that you protect this course and put it on by your allowance. So not only did I think that by telling you you would help me remedy the situation, I'm now afraid that you are contributing to this and therefore protecting it and keeping it going and encouraging it. And what does he say to her? Are you our daughter? Which to me in contemporary terms is like, what's your name? And of course, the fool, all the guys just burst out laughing. But how disrespectful that this dad who has just been the worst house guest says this. And then down here is the speech that we're going to talk about, but I want to give you the backstory. So then she says, "Come, sir," in this lovely short line, right? Which means a short line for every verse line in Shakespeare, so it's kind of a column. Each of these is supposed to have 10 syllables. And then if it doesn't, something is irregular rather than a regular verse line, then we get acting clues. So, "Come, sir," usually it's 10 syllables, dee-dum, 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 right? But we have "come, sir," so that's only 2 syllables out of 10, which to me says I have 8 syllables of needing to gather myself before I speak. Are you our daughter? Laughter, laughter, laughter. I'm just, "Come, sir," right? Isn't that fun? "I would you would make use of that good wisdom, whereof I know you are fraught." So I know you're wise. I wish you would use that wisdom in order to, and fraught is such a fun word too. You are fraught with it. You are brimming with intelligence. How are you letting this happen? "And put away these dispositions, which of late transport you from what you rightly are." And I think in this moment, she is trying to give a bit of an olive branch. What you rightly are, meaning you're the king, you're someone of authority, you are a man who knows the right thing here. And then says, "Your name, fair gentlewoman?" Right. So are you our daughter? And that can also be him saying, "Excuse me, I'm your dad. I can do whatever I want." Right? And then, "What's your name again?" Laughs in her face with the soldiers laughing too. That's not Shakespeare. That's me writing that as just a reminder. So then we get to this speech. So she is pissed. She's pissed. She's tried to come into this place, this room, and bring reason to her father. And he has behaved so poorly. He's let everyone else behave poorly, completely disrespectful to her as a host, as a family member, everything. So then I think she still tries to maintain a little bit of decorum, but is at the bursting point. So that's where we're at with this speech. So let's go line by line and see what we got. This also is all of the notes that I had when I performed this role. So I did want to read this idea of evil, of a villain. The Variorum, which is a version of all of Shakespeare's plays that compiles together every single note you've ever seen. And like criticism, everything. It's kind of a one-stop shop. And once you have gone Variorum, you'll never go back. So in the Variorum of King Lear, it says this: "The monster Goneril, a maddening grievance, perfect sympathy of monstrosity. Whenever these creatures are introduced, and they are brought forward as little as possible, pure horror reigns throughout." Excuse me? I feel if anybody came to my house, let alone a family member who definitely knew better, and ransacked it, again, thinking about Downton Abbey, which I'm a huge fan of, if they ruined Downton Abbey on a drunk retirement parade, I would be upset, let alone that I didn't get the inheritance that I was due. I get it. So in King Lear, people always talk about, the 2 evil daughters, and then there's the good daughter. And Cordelia is a good daughter because she called him out. She said, "I'm not doing this. I'm not being a part of this showmanship, this parade. Like, no." And he was an insolent child and said, "Fine, you're out." But then the people that did play along, his daughters, they're not. So Cordelia is not inherently goody two shoes. She's got a fight to her, which is so fun. But the other sisters aren't inherently evil. They are put upon by this man that they don't have a good relationship with anyway, and who, fucked them over. Like, that's what's happening. And so I, playing this part, was like, I get it. The other crazy thing, sorry, I just zoomed myself in. I was like, gotta show you this. The other crazy thing is that when I was preparing the role, I was reading through the unabridged play. And then when I got the script, which is every play one is in Shakespeare nowadays is abridged in some way, hopefully, because Hamlet unabridged is 4 hours long, right? Like, we can do that maybe for certain epic movies, but that's just a long time to sit in a theater. And so it was abridged, and I noticed in that moment that all of Goneril's asides were cut. And I've noticed since in film adaptations, everything, they're always cut. And an aside, ASIDE, means that she gets to talk to the audience and give her point of view. It'd be like if I said, hey, I'm doing a YouTube video, and then I looked over to someone that was in the room and said, how do you think this is going? That's an aside. And the friend would go, it's going great. Thanks, friend. So an aside means that Goneril is so upset about all of this and then gets to turn to the audience and say, can you believe this guy? And she gets to plead her case. It is always cut, so no wonder all we see is the monstrosity part, right? When any of us get angry, we don't show very well. But how interesting that Shakespeare gave her a little bit of perspective and then it's usually taken away. So good. So I'm a big advocate for Goneril. The student that I introduced this piece to was like, oh my gosh, I think Goneril's my girl. What a great way to say it. Again, yay. But that's how I felt too. I was like, oh gosh, I'm going to play a villain. And then I got into it real quick of, I understand this rage. Okay, so let's get into the speech. I know I've said that 70 times, but now we're going to do it. I'm going to do it with this blank document just to keep it easy, but we can always go over and check on these other notes. Okay. I'm going to just read it out loud first for comprehension so that it makes sense. This admiration, sir, is much of the savor of other your new pranks. I do beseech you to understand my purposes aright. As you are old and reverend, you should be wise. Here do you keep 100 knights and squires, men so disordered, so debauched and bold, that this our court, infected with their manners, shows like a riotous inn. Epicurism and lust make it more like a tavern or a brothel than a graced palace. The shame itself does speak for instant remedy. Be then desired by her that else will take the thing she begs, a little to disquantity your train, and the remainder that shall still depend to be such men as may besort your age, which know themselves and you. And then for monologue purposes, I added this line that's a lot later in the play, but I like it as a button. So she's saying this, and then she says, kind of like he has, "Are you our daughter, fair gentlewoman?" She says, "Do you mark that, my lord? Did you hear me, Dad?" So that is the cut that I like of this. Yay! Okay, so let's go line by line and look at this. Boo, 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 boo. Okay, so this admiration, sir, is much of the savor of other your new pranks. This is kind of a thorny line to untangle. I love the word thorny. That's what my mentor, David Monti, which if you want to watch a couple interviews with him, I'll put the link around here. That's what he calls it, when it's thorny language. I just think that's perfect because it's not, it's difficult, but I like the idea of a thorn because that's just something that's natural, and then we can naturally untangle it. but it's also impressive in how tangled up it is. Okay. This admiration, sir. So, your name, fair gentlewoman, meaning, who are you? Her saying, this admiration, this behavior that you are doing is obviously not admiring her. So she's saying admiration sarcastically, which again tells me that she is just trying to keep it together, and says sir a lot. Never says father, it's always sir. This thing that you're saying is a lot like everything else that you've been doing, is basically the paraphrase. Is much o' the savor. Anytime you see o' the, it's of thee. But it's telling the actor to get on with the words. It's not is much of the savor. It's much of the savor, and it's just kind of a quick way to say of the. And then savor is kind of the taste or quality of something, right? If you are savoring a piece of bread, it's because it tasted very good. So this is kind of saying, of other your new pranks. Pranks is exactly what we think it is. If you do a practical joke on someone, that's a prank. So she's calling him out and saying, you've done a lot of these pranks lately. And just like all of those other ones, what you just said to me, this admiration, is a lot of the same taste or quality of the pranks you've done lately, the new pranks. That make sense? This admiration, sir, is much of the savor of other your new pranks, meaning what I just explained. So hopefully that makes sense. I do beseech you to understand my purposes aright. Beseech means, and it's all throughout Shakespeare, beseech means I implore you. I want you to. I beg you. So I beg you to understand my purposes, my purpose for coming here. I'm coming in the room, I'm trying to talk to you sanely, and there's food being flung at my face. Oh, I just get it. And so says that. I do beseech you to understand my purposes right. She wants to be understood, and her big objective of this whole speech, even the little bit before too, is for him to, he has 100 people right now. She wants it to be less than that. She wants him to not, she's not kicking him out. She's just saying, you can stay, but I can't have all of these people staying here. So I do beseech you to understand my purposes right. So what you just did is exactly what I'm saying is happening. So I need you to understand me right now. Right? So let's get serious, I think is her goal with that line. I do beseech you to understand my purposes aright. Full stop, which I won't go into too much as far as punctuation in Shakespeare in general, because it depends on the editor. But this makes a lot of sense that this is what we call an end stop. So you'll see that this doesn't have a period at the end. This verse line doesn't have a period. But when there's a period at the end of a verse line, it gives me the clue to have that be kind of its own thought, like the end of a thought, and then next beat, okay? So here's what I was talking about. Please listen to what I'm saying. And probably it's the last time I'm going to say it, is what she's saying. As you are old and reverend, you should be wise. Another end stop. I would also consider that a mic drop of a moment. So, as you are old and reverend, should you be wise? So, someone who's older and wiser, that's a known trope, right? She, in front of all of his 100 friends that are laughing with him and, oh, you're the man, she says, listen to me, you are old. And everyone's like, and Andy's the king. I mean, this is a total insult to him. Of course, everyone knows his age, but no one talks about it. As you are old, and then reverend, we think of that as a noun, as in someone's like a pastor of a church, but this is in an adjective form. It's someone who's worthy of reverence. So as you are old and almost like an elder, and we revere you as an elder, you should be wise, which is also calling him out, saying, you're not wise, by the way. So you're not acting wisely, and you're not acting your age or someone who is deserving of all this attention, all of this reverence. So that's the thesis statement. Listen to me. Here's what I have to say. And then here's an example. After the thesis statement, here's all the reasons why. Here do you keep 100 knights and squires. We know from like King Arthur movies that a knight is the one who's jousting and protecting the kingdom, and then squires are their assistants, the ones that are running around and making sure that they have the lance and the feather in their helmet, like that. Their assistants. So 100 people, and back in that time, it was certainly all men were knights and squires. I'm sure there's really cool feminist new movies about like female knights, but that wasn't common. So this is saying these are dudes, and they're all working guys too. It's not like you have 100 courtiers with you. They're knights and squires. They are, bros. And they're a lot younger, right? If you're a knight, that means you are in peak physical condition. I mean, they still could be in their middle age, but they're kind of jacked, and it's not what the king looks like. He's surrounding himself with cool people. So she's saying that I know how many people are here. Yeah. Here do you keep 100 knights and squires, which just means he's not keeping them. He's keeping in the company, if that makes sense. You are in the company of 100 knights and squires. You have employed, you have invited. These knights and squires, these people are men so disordered, so debauched, like debauchery, and bold, that this, our court, are kind of, she's a princess, right? But she's not living in the palace. He has come to her house, so she has a grand estate. So it's kind of like Buckingham Palace, the Queen has in London, and then there's like Windsor Castle. So it's another big, huge, castle-y royal place, but it's not the main palace. But that's why she calls it a little bit later a graced palace. So she's in a really nice house, but they're messing it all up. That this, our court, her house, infected with their manners, right? So if someone has bad manners, it is not only ruining the vibe, it's infecting, which to me says it's gotten its claws in, and it is affecting the entire grounds, the servants in it. Everything is going wrong. It's not just that there's one place that this is all happening and we'll have to redo that room when they leave. It's the whole place. So it shows like a riotous inn. So if someone has a riot, it's like a group of people, angry mob, or for, a force for good, for political reasons. But when something goes from a peaceful protest to something violent, that's called a riot. So a riotous inn, that would be an inn like a tavern, right? An inn that gets riotous is one probably where fights break out. And for sure, these knights, they're all they're trained to do is hit other people with sticks and kill dragons and stuff, right? So they are prone to action, perchance violence. So let's put that all together. Here do you keep 100 knights and squires, men so disordered, so debauched and bold, that this our court, infected with their manners, shows like a riotous inn. And that's what we call antithesis, where it should be like a royal court, and instead it's down at the pub with people fighting, right? And so you can pop those antitheses with, inflection, like This our court, riotous inn. Or instead of our court, it's like this. Yeah, so that's usually a way to make it pop. Now, epicurism and lust make it more like a tavern or a brothel than a graced palace. So she's called it a riotous inn. She's called it a low-class, kind of violent place. Then she goes a step deeper. Epicurism, if you are epicurious, if you someone who is, I forget the noun version of it, but it's like a person, I wrote down, a person who appreciates fine food and drink, devoted to sensual pleasure, also at glutton. So if someone is gluttonous, right, that's one of the 7 deadly sins or whatever, or vices, something bad. If you're a glutton, it means you want more and more and more and more. Just very like, give it all to me. If anyone is a Spirited Away Hayao Miyazaki fan, in the anime movies, No Face becomes a glutton and just eats everything in sight, right? It's overconsumption. So not only is it an inn, epicurism and lust. So she's talking about the sensual pleasure, and then lust, meaning they're probably making whoopee with everybody they can find, makes it more like a tavern or a brothel. So a brothel, a place of prostitution. You would come and say, hello, madam, the lady who runs the place. I would like to have sex with someone for money. And she would say, right this way. And so that's a brothel. Then a graced palace. So again, we have the antithesis, a tavern, which is the same thing as an inn, or a brothel. Even worse, you've made my home a place of ill repute. Oh, poor Goneril. Then a graced palace. Not even just a palace, but a graced one that has been graced with, just that the word grace comes in at all. It feels like she's trying to lift it higher than it's ever been. Downton Abbey has such grace, right? It's pristine. There's space within it. It's full of heirlooms. So a graced palace to me would be a palace that has been graced with the presence of maybe a lot of famous royals, or people of note, or has just been graced or touched by luck, by prosperity, all this stuff. So she's really trying to drive this point home that it's not just a court. It was a court, now it's an inn. It was a palace, and now you've turned it into a tavern or a brothel. Even worse. Just really trying, and in doing that, she's then not only calling out the king as old, she's calling out all these people as, whores, basically, and violent, rude, gluttonous people, right? Because it does seem to me like they have they're a vacuum of anything they see, they destroy. It'd be like having 100 toddlers, but that all have the muscles of someone who's armored and the libido of that, right? Horrible. Okay, the shame itself doth speak for instant remedy. So all of that, and then the brothel and everything, the shame on that, really trying to make her dad feel this shame, because her whole goal of the speech is, don't you get it? And him go, oh, you're right. I'm so ashamed. So I think this word shame is really key. The shame itself does speak for instant remedy. Once you understand how shameful this is, that's all the reason you need for it to be remedied, for it to be fixed, right? So, mid-stop, that's what this is called when it's not at the end, which is an end stop, is a mid-stop. It means that even though it's the end of a sentence, I decide, there's lots of different ways to do verse performance, but I think that says keep going. The shame itself to speak for instant remedy. Be then desired, And then that's where I think the little catch breath is, the caesura, for those who like the official terms. Be then desired by her that else will take the thing she begs, a little to disquantity your train. So that's one thought, which we'll talk about. But I love that she says it's so shameful. That news by itself should just instantly make everybody snap out of it and change it. But she doesn't wait for him to say something. She goes on to, so here's what I want. So it's, I want you to understand my purposes aright. And then it's, and so here's what I desire. She's saying, be then desired, like you desire this. But it's really this what she wants. Be then desired by me, that else will take the thing she begs. This is one of my favorite lines in all of the canon, because one of my favorite tropes, one of my favorite, what are they called? Anomalies, or just bits of scansion, is called monosyllables, a monosyllabic line. So mono means one, syllabic is a syllable. So a line full of one syllable words. So, by her that else will take the thing she begs, right? It feels very, Dick and Jane have a dog, right? But why this is so yummy is that it shows how she's kind of talking to him like a child. I need you to understand this. You've done all of this, and so I'm asking, ba, 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 a little to disquantity your train. I'm asking that you disquantity your train. Quantity means number of, right? And disquantity, whether it was a word back then or not, was certainly not something we use now. But the idea of lessening your quantity of your train of people, like at a wedding, if you have a train of a piece of cloth or your veil or your dress as a train, it means that it's following after you. So she's calling all of these 100 knights and squires his train of people. So all she wants is that he lets some of them go home. That's really all. I think that's very reasonable. She's not kicking him out. I don't know if she actually could really, but because of his temper. But that's what she's asking. Be then desired a little to disquantity your train. That's what she wants. But then she has this middle line of monosyllables, which is kind of a parenthetical, because I can say, be then desired a little to disquantity your train. That's a full sentence. But there's this little middle section. And what she's saying, I think, is a threat. By her that else will take the thing she begs. So be then desired, and beseech earlier, another word for begging. The thing she begs, meaning I beg, the thing I want is for you to disquantity your train. And I am the one who desires this. And then I'm talking about myself in the third person, by her, me, that else, that otherwise will take the thing she begs. So here's what I want, Dad. But if you're not going to give it to me, if you're not going to let these guys, a few of them go, I will take what I want. I will make them go. So in essence, she's saying, we can do this nicely, or we can do this the hard way. And how perfect then to have this. I think I even have it in one over here. Boo, boo, boo. So when I get monosyllables, I get so excited. So here it is. By her that else will take the thing she begs. And here's performance-wise how I would do it. The shame itself to speak for instant remedy, be then desired by her that else will take the thing she begs, a little to disquantity your train. Right? So very clear about what she wants, but there's a threat in that because of this monosyllabic line. I'm going to speak slowly and clearly so that you know I mean business. Right? So cool. Then we don't have an end stop because she said what she wants, but then she wants to speak a little bit more. So I want you to lessen your group of people, and the remainder, the people that you do allow to stay and that I allow to stay, that shall still depend on you. So the remainder that shall still depend, to be such men as may besort your age. So she brings it back to you're old, Dad. And all of these young guys around you, like, it's embarrassing. So then some sass can come back, right? So the people that you do keep, they should be ones that are more age appropriate and which know themselves and you. So if you know yourself, if you are wise in that way, then she's trying to say, if you know yourself truly, then you know this is inappropriate behavior for how you are, how men of your age should act. So she not only says you have to have less people, but the people you keep here are the older ones who will also maybe calm you down or act more the way you should at your age. So which know themselves and you, meaning like they'll be able to rein you in as well. And then if you want to tag it at the end, it's a bit of a cheat, but this speech isn't done very much, so I don't think anyone would, in a live audition setting, call you out of why did you pull that line at the very end from basically the next French scene, meaning people leave and then another one starts. So if that's true, you'll just have to know why you made that cut. And you can say, I was watching this thing on Shelby Loves Shakespeare. But here's the thing. So this is where it ends within the context of the play. Darkness and devils saddle my horses, call my train together. So she's saying, you can stay, but I need you to have less people and I need them to be more age appropriate. And she knows she's wounding too. I mean, hurt people, right? And she is super hurt. And he's not making it better. So he hears all of that. He keeps hearing about the age. Besort, meaning suit your age. Thank you, me and my notes, what that means. This is her final straw, effort to give him a chance. So fun. This is how I do notes on mine. It's a lot of them. Wow. Okay. So she says you can stay, but have less people. And that is so insulting to him because he's the king and he's used to getting everything he wants that he says, darkness and devils. Saddle my horses, call my train together. I'm out. So he calls her bluff in a way, but I mean, I think that'd be really relieving to her. Exit the knights, then calls me degenerate, well, Goneril, but I'm just remembering this. Degenerate bastard. I'll not trouble thee. It's like someone saying, hey, can you just do this if you're gonna be here and just be a little bit better of a house guest, please? And then say, oh, well, I'll just leave. I'm not gonna trouble you anymore. Right? It's just very passive aggressive. Yet have I left a daughter, and then that's another short line. Yet have I left a daughter, ba, ba, ba. So that's why I have ba, ba, ba. To remind me, as I still have the script in my hand when I'm doing blocking, that that's a written in pause, a written in silence. I have left a daughter. You strike my people. So another layer, she says, you've been hitting my servants. And your disordered rabble finally gets to rabble. She's riled up. Make servants of their betters. So people that are higher class, they then ask for, oh, could you get me, more wine? Oh, then enter Albany. This is her husband, who is very religiously bent. Woe that too late repents. Is it your will? Speak, sir. So he's like, well, fine, I'm leaving. Whatever, daughter. Sorry, I've been such a nuisance to you. And then the guy comes in. He goes, okay, good. Well, do you have anything to say? You speak up. And then he doesn't. Ingratitude, thou marble-hearted fiend, more hideous when thou showst thee in a child than a sea monster, right? Just speaking about Goneril. So says, speak, sir, to Albany, and then starts insulting this woman again. And then Albany, pray, sir, be patient. And then this is so good. He calls me detested kite. It's just so good. Thou liest, my train are men of choice and rarest parts. So now he's defending his people. Like, I've only brought the best. And then, I want to show you. After all of this talking, this is a very famous line, that she may feel how sharper than a serpent's tooth it is to have a thankless child. So she again said, Dad, I hear you. You need to calm down, and some of your friends need to go home. Not that innocently, but still. And he says, all of this stuff, right? Before leaving. So he is so upset. And then I do think he says, I'm going to go to my other daughter at some point. Because he does. He goes to Regan next. But Goneril beats him there, and Regan and Goneril are outside and will not let him come in the house until he only has a certain number of people. Oh, it's so good. So at the very end, when he leaves, Goneril says, do you mark that, my lord? And look at my paraphrase. Can you believe that shit? That's exactly what it is. And so that's the line that I've cheated down here. So you can make that choice, but if there's someone who knows the play inside and out, depending on who you're auditioning for, that says, hey, where did you get that last line? Because maybe for some reason they know this really well. You can say, oh, it's actually after Lear exits, but I just thought it was such a strong way to really drive the point home that, did you hear me, Dad? And that just shows that you're knowledgeable. But when I do a cut like this, I want to make sure someone knows that that's a choice and that they don't have to make the same one. Yeah, so. And then this is the other one. Yeah, anyway. So that is the speech. So now I'm going to perform it. I'm trying to think of how to do it because I love this little Glinda bubble. Whoop, whoop, whoop. So you can see my face as well. Yeah. Because if I do this, then I can't see the script. Such is life. Okay. So I hope all that makes sense. Again, I think what's key about this speech is that we know that she is in quite a state of being completely over it, but trying to maintain her composure because she doesn't want to become as debaucherous and disrespectful as these people are. So I think it's important acting-wise that in general, every monologue has a 3-act structure. And so I think it's important acting-wise for her, when she comes in, she's still trying to keep it together until she says her thesis statement. And then she can say, this is what you're doing, and this is what you're doing, and this, and then it can be really riled up. And then come back to, be then desired, reeling it back in, by her that else will take the thing she begs, a little to disquantity your train. I might be able to do it memorize. It's fascinating how much things stay in one's head. But that's, I think, the 3-act structure. I would give this as its own piece. Keeping it together, about to burst, and then pull it back in, but with this understanding with your father of, I'm not taking any more of this shit. Right? Okay. So you can see me perform in a little Glinda bubble. Boop. Let's do this. Yeah. Thanks for being up for this. I'm always trying to do new ways of tutorials to see that it still makes sense for you guys. And then this allows me to have a little bit less editing because I don't have to put graphics of the text up. So thanks so much. And let me know in the comments below if you like this kind of tutorial. Was it nice for me to kind of be there with the text with you? Yeah, just let me know. Okay, this is me as Goneril doing these gorgeous words. This admiration, sir, is much of the savor of other your new pranks. I do beseech you to understand my purposes aright. As you are old and reverend, you should be wise. Here do you keep 100 knights and squires, men so disordered, so debauched and bold, that this our court, infected with their manners, shows like a riotous inn. Epicurism and lust make it more like a tavern or a brothel than a graced palace. The shame itself does speak for instant remedy. Be then desired by her that else will take the thing she begs, a little to disquantity your train, and the remainder that shall still depend to be such men as may besort your age, which know themselves and you. Do you mark that, my lord? Yay! We learned a speech. So exciting. So yeah, let me know if that makes sense, if that was helpful, what other questions you have, and if you like this tutorial style, because I've been gone for so long because editing takes a long time, and so this is a little bit very low editing. So if this is helpful and entertaining and fun to watch, then huzzah! And maybe I'll be able to do more kind of quickly, especially on pieces that I already know really well because I've performed them. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoy me and this channel, hit subscribeth, the button below. And yeah, looking forward to more. I have audition advice. I'm also an audition coach. So especially for Shakespeare monologues, but any kind of monologue package. I am revving up to do something in the fall, in fact, where I'm just gonna be like a person who's a partner there with seniors in high school who are applying for college BFA, BA acting programs. I'm really good at making those monologue packages come to life and be really authentic to you and what you want to show. And so, yeah, I have that business. And if you're interested in that, then check out my info part of the YouTube channel. I feel like there's a description or something, or just comment below and I will give you all the info. Yeah. And as they say in Shakespeare's time, something that means soon, like see you soon, it is anon. And so, anon.